Today, we're diving into a series of really serious allegations from watchdog groups and major news outlets. What their reports describe is a system, a pay-to-play system that they say operated at the very highest levels of government during the Trump administration.
You know, this quote from the Campaign Legal Center, it just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It perfectly frames the core allegation we're going to unpack today, that access, influence, and even official government policy were treated like items for sale.
So, the sources we're digging into all argue that the lines between public service and private profit got dangerously, maybe even intentionally, blurred. We're going to break this down into three key parts. First, the allegations of profiting directly from the presidency. Second, how that evolved into a pay-to-play system. And third, the alleged weaponization of the entire justice system. Okay, first up, the charge that the presidency itself became a machine for making money. This all centers on a decision that was, well, completely unprecedented for a modern president, the decision to keep ownership of his massive business empire while still in office. To get a sense of the sheer scale here, just look at this number, over 3,700. That's how many potential conflicts of interest the watchdog group crew tracked. Now, they argue this isn't just some abstract number. It represents thousands of moments where the public's business could have been mixed up with the president's personal profits.
And this is where it gets really specific. CRU's research points to a clear pattern. You had hundreds of government officials making nearly 1,000 visits to Trump properties. You had special interests and even foreign governments spending millions of dollars at his hotels. The argument here is that these weren't just vacations or business meetings. They were a way to get in the door, to buy goodwill. It even extended to family, with reports of Ivanka Trump's brand getting foreign trademarks while she was a senior advisor.
And these allegations of questionable finances, well, they go back way before the presidency. A bombshell investigation from the New York Times alleged that the Trump family managed to avoid paying up to $500 million in taxes, using schemes that involved undervaluing properties.
But maybe the most stunning detail from that entire report was this allegation of a sham company. The New York Times claimed this company was basically a secret channel used to pass wealth to the Trump children without paying taxes, and at the same time it was used to jacking up rents on their father's tenants. The source suggests a long-standing pattern of financial maneuvering.
All right, let's move to our second section, because this is where all of that builds into what critics started calling a full-blown pay-to-play system. This is the part where we look at the alleged direct line between giving money to Trump and getting official government rewards in return.
So the Campaign Legal Center, or CLC, the group we heard from at the very start, they've been all over this. They argue that rewarding big money donors wasn't just something that happened once in a while. They call it a defining feature of how the administration operated. So what did that look like in practice?
Well, this table, which is based on reporting from multiple sources, including the CLC, lays out some pretty stark examples. You have Linda McMahon, who contributed $20 million and then was appointed Secretary of Education. Howard Lutnick gave $10 million and became Commerce Secretary. A donation to the inaugural fund from Jared Isaacman was followed by his nomination to lead NASA. To critics, these don't look like coincidences, they look like transactions.
And it went way beyond just cabinet seats. The CLC identified 6 main routes where money allegedly bought influence. We're talking everything from ambassadorships to pardons to making investigations into corporations just disappear. The reports detail a pretty broad system of alleged transactional favors.
And that brings us to our third and, frankly, most explosive section, the allegation that the justice system itself, the power of the law, was used as a tool to reward friends and punish enemies.
Now, before we get into the details, it's really important we're all on the same page about the pardon power. The Constitution gives the president this incredible authority to grant clemency. But the whole idea, the whole tradition, is that it's supposed to be used for the public good, not for personal or political gain.
But the CLC's Pardon Playbook analysis claims this power was systematically abused. They actually break it down into 3 types: reward pardons for big donors, corrupt pardons for officials who stayed loyal, and even brokered pardons, ones you could get if you hired the right well-connected lobbyist. The core allegation is that clemency became a commodity.
This slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows what the CLC calls a 2-tiered system of justice. On one side, you've got the allies and donors who allegedly get pardons, clemency, and see investigations just vanish. And on the other side, a completely different story for perceived enemies who faced firings, public attacks, and even threats of prosecution.
And this isn't just a theory. There are specific examples backing it up. PBS reported on a lawsuit from former FBI agents who claimed there was a retribution campaign against them for investigating Trump.
The website Lawfare quoted a key ally, Kash Patel, who openly said they would come after people in the media. And a ProPublica report found the Justice Department dropped thousands of criminal cases as it shifted its focus away from white-collar crime, a move critics say benefited corporate allies.
So, when you put all of these pieces together, what's the big picture effect? Well, the watchdog groups we've been looking at argue that this goes way beyond just a few bad acts. They say it strikes at the very foundation of the rule of law in a democracy.
The bottom line from all these groups is this. When presidential power is allegedly used for personal profit and to reward political allies, it completely undermines that core American principle of equal justice under law. It erodes public trust, and they say it does real damage to the entire system.
Ultimately, all of these reports from all these different sources seem to boil down to one single fundamental question. They allege a system where influence was up for sale. And if that's the case, we're left to ask, when the lines between being a public servant and being a private business get this blurry, who is it that truly pays the price?